Today's conversation is especially relevant for anyone who has ever felt that their work is strong, but their visibility, influence, or recognition is not keeping pace.
The space that you take up when you're in the room, that translates directly into the space that you take up in people's minds long after you have left the room. So that is impact and that's presence. And definitely it offers you a competitive edge. I do believe it's a skill that can be learned. So leadership is one you're born with. Two, it is an evolving plan and something, it's like working with a moving target.
It gives me hope that yes, while some people are born with certain qualities, which is great, but others can also learn.
He's technically brilliant, intellectually very smart, but the board feels that he doesn't look like a leader. And I always tell them work is speaking, but nobody is listening. If you lose your cool and you don't offer a calibrated response, you are definitely going to miss that big opportunity. Let's say success in the business world is a 100-mark paper. There are marks allocated to everything that build your personal brand. You're not being smart, selfish, aggressive, pushy. But what ends up happening is what do you stand for?
I typically tell my clients also this is the window to all your emotions. Welcome to this edition of Unscripted. I am Rahul Gupta. I am a career and leadership coach and founder of Transform Ahead. This podcast is my space to hold honest, human conversation with real people, leaders, professionals, and change makers who have chosen growth over comfort. Through raw and meaningful dialogues, we are going to explore career pivots, defining moments, mindset shifts, and leadership journeys from inside out. So, whether you are at the crossroads or chasing your next big breakthrough or just need a relatable conversation, this space is for you. So, let's dive in. Welcome to the TLC Unscripted episode. This is a space for real stories and raw voices on topics that cuts across our professions and life. Today's conversation is especially relevant for anyone who has ever felt that their work is strong, but their visibility, influence, or recognition is not keeping pace. Let me introduce our guest today. Shital Kakkar Mehra is an executive presence coach, author, and leadership advisor who has worked with senior leaders, CXOs, and high potential professionals across industries. With over 2 decades of experience, she has impacted thousands of professionals in building what truly differentiates leaders in today's world, not just competence, but presence. She is the author of the book Executive Presence, where she distills her insights into a practical guide for professionals who want to be seen, heard, and trusted at higher levels. Shital, welcome to the TLC Unscripted episode. It's great to have you here. And let me start with this, Shital. Something very fundamental, right? Most professionals believe that if they do good work, recognition will follow. But in reality, that's not always how careers grow. My first question to you is decoding executive presence. What executive presence really is beyond the buzzword that we have all heard?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be here addressing this team and this group of people, and I look forward to an interactive session. Yes, so what is executive presence and why do you need it? Now, I personally feel that after a certain stage in the corporate journey, technical skills, intellectual skills, and hard work is something that everybody does. It becomes what we call as a hygiene factor. So, what is going to give you a competitive edge? Now it's about how you communicate, how you interact with people, and I personally feel presence is the space that you take up when you're in the room that translates directly into the space that you take up in people's minds long after you have left the room. So that is impact and that's presence. And definitely it offers you a competitive edge because after a point, how much harder can you work? How much more smarter can you work? But it is your impact and your communication and how you interact with people, which they remember you. And that is what is impact and a lasting impression.
Sure, sure. So what you are saying, and if I understand it correctly, that you know it helps people remember you even when you are like out of the room, right?
Yes.
And but that brings me to one question, which is also a question people ask about leadership. Is it a skill that you can develop, or is it more like you are creating a perception?
No. See, first of all, there are certain traits that are in leadership traits. And I do believe that some people are born with it. So there are natural leaders, there are gifted leaders. But having said that, I do believe it's a skill that can be learned. So it is learnable, it is something that we can focus on, and also styles change, trends change. If you see the leaders, let's say going back to 1980s or 1990s, leaders were much more autocratic. You know, a boss walks into a room, or a leader, business and political leaders. People walk into the room, and what ends up happening is that everybody just says, yes, sir, and that's how it works. By 2000, we started noticing that there was a little more democratic style of leadership. So, very often, leaders would ask on the table, so what do you feel, Shital? What do you feel, Rahul? And we are some junior managers. Initially, it may even come as a shock to us that what are we supposed to respond, because we were not used to that leadership style. But over time, he started getting a voice and he started contributing. Today, I feel leadership is a lot more collaborative. The job of a leader is, yes, definitely your presence, but your presence has to be a calm presence. It is also something that people can look up to, and also somebody that people can share their thoughts, their ideas with. And the new generation, the millennials and the Gen Z, are very geared up for that. They are very open in their communication style. They can walk into a boss's cabin and share an idea. So I think the styles have changed, trends have changed. So leadership is one you're born with. Two, it is an evolving plan, and something, it's like working with a moving target.
Sure, sure. No, that's a great insight, Sheetal. Thanks for that. And it gives me hope that yes, while some people are born with certain qualities, which is great, but others can also learn, right?
Learnable. Yeah.
But I have also seen, people having misconceptions about executive presence. Some of them take it negatively because if somebody is very strong technically or in their functional ability, they think that that's going to carry them through across the career. So, do you
And
think there is a limitation to that? And when the presence become a little more important in your career, is there a transition point that happens?
you know, very frequently, whenever I'm asked to quote senior leaders, CXOs, few sentences always stand out. One, he's technically brilliant,
Hmm.
intellectually very smart, but the board feels that he doesn't look like a leader. So clearly, the visual, the physical presence matters. Second sentence I hear very frequently is, she is excellent, we want to promote her, but you know, she lacks gravitas. And nobody knows the meaning of the word gravitas, but they use it. And the third, which is the worst one, who is he? Ha ha, yeah, I think I've met him. I think I've met him. Zero visibility. So it's very important to look like a leader. It is very important to display gravitas and maturity. And it is also equally important to have visibility. So these are factors which go beyond the good work that you're doing. Many people say my work will speak for itself. And I always tell them work is speaking, but nobody is listening after a point.
Oh, that's a deep one. I think people on the call must make a note of this because I also keep listening to these kind of inputs, right? Based on the competency, especially, right? And by the way, people disproportionately invest time in terms of building competency, but I don't know how much time they're spending to build what you are talking about, which is the visibility part, the presence part, and all that. Another question. Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, see,
Yes.
your competence is the foundation, but you need to layer it with these skills to maximize your impact. So just building technical skills and focusing on your competence and my work will speak for itself is not enough, because after a point, any industry, any job, any function, communication becomes very important.
Yes, absolutely agree with you. Now, since you both senior leaders, have you seen somebody missing a big opportunity because of lack of executive presence? I mean, any case study that you remember where somebody has lost a, a promotion, or, and I'm talking about at the senior most level.
Yes, at all times. In fact, I see it all the time. Either people are not, let me give you an example. Today, I feel displaying maturity has become a very important skill. People are constantly triggered, and what you have to do is how do you maintain poise under pressure has become a very important skill. Now, if you lose your cool and you don't offer a calibrated response, you are definitely going to miss that big opportunity, right? Second area that I feel people lose out on is visibility. They don't believe that in being visible within the organization is important. So yes, your boss knows you, maybe your super boss knows you, but do people across function industry know you? Because I firmly believe that visibility increases opportunity. So how much do other people in other functions, other factions, junior, senior, people across all levels, how much do they know you? So that's something else that I feel people don't focus on enough. Yes, physical presence also matters. Many times people lose out because they just don't look the part. And in an industry, any function, it is important to look the part. If you really see, business and political leaders look the part. So it's important that we focus on these skills. I feel it's it's let's say success in the business world is a 100-mark paper. There are marks allocated to everything. So there are marks. That's why my POISE formula, my diagnostic tool, which I use for executive presence, it focuses on various things. One of them is physical presence. The letter P stands for physical presence. What is your physical presence? Are you focusing on it enough? This letter O stands for your online presence. You on a screen, you on social media, you in digital communication. The I stands for your influencer skill. How well are you influencing your stakeholders? Do you speak up? Do you push back? Do you say no? The S stands for stage presence, which is public speaking. How are you effectively articulating a thought and communicating it? And the E is your engagement presence, your ability to build networks within the organization and outside. So there are points for every one of these, and
Yeah.
you one can't say, oh, this is not important and that is important. Everything is equally important.
Understood. Great. I think it's a easy to remember formula, boys. But before I ask you another question, let me show it to everyone. This is
Thank you.
Sheetal's book. It's on Amazon, best selling on Amazon. She gifted it to me, and I am reading this and learning the poise formula. And I think it's written here itself, right?
Yeah, I
The
was
the
lucky.
poise formula for
HarperCollins
leadership.
picked it
Yes.
up and published it as a book. Thanks, Rahul. Thanks so much.
No problem. I think this is important because what you have done is you have decoded the whole thing into a structured framework now, which is easy to remember because poise is generally connected to the word presence and so on. So people, even if they don't make note, mentally they can remember the word poise, right?
Yeah.
Now, uh, my question to you is, as you said, right, everything is important, it has got weightage and so on. Which one do you think professionals find the most difficult of the five things? They find it the most difficult to actually build from your experience.
It's a combination, and I would call it personal branding. Most
Okay.
people are not focused on building their personal brand. Organizations are very good at it. They know they protect their brands, right? Whether it is packaging, logo, color of the logo, font, everything. Starting with something which you would say is just packaging and gloss. Starting from that, going down to values, objectives, mission statement. Companies build their brands beautifully, but individuals don't focus on building their brands adequately. And I always tell people that build your personal brand. You're not being smart, selfish, aggressive, pushy. But what ends up happening is, what do you stand for? Does it align with your identity? And everything then has to be synchronized. So, if you build a personal brand, one, you're very comfortable being who you are because you're authentic self. Second is, you send out a synchronized signal. People know exactly who you are and what you stand for. And thirdly, most importantly, it creates a pull factor. And pull is so much easier than push. So do it by design and not by default.
Okay. Okay. So personal branding is important and people should pay attention to that. I have a very interesting story to share with you. I
Yeah.
worked with a German partner in EY, and he would say one thing, that Rahul, always dress one notch above the client. Okay.
Yeah.
Which means if you are going and meeting a techie who is in his pajamas and t-shirt, you should wear at least a shirt and a trouser. If you're
Yeah.
meeting a banker who is in a shirt and a trouser, you should wear a tie. If you are meeting a consultant who is already wearing a tie, you should have a blazer. And if you are meeting somebody who is already like decked up with blazer and all, you wear a better branded blazer. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Something I learned that yes, packaging is very important. Yet I get into discussions where people, they don't groom themselves, etc., and they don't even agree that packaging is important. I don't know
Yeah.
how to tell them.
Rahul, the
Yeah.
interesting thing is the world knew what to wear till Silicon Valley happened, right? If you look at our father or even mothers, if they were working in a corporate job, in that generation, they knew exactly what to wear. There was no confusion. There was workwear, there was home wear, there was weekend wear, there was wedding wear. But then Silicon Valley happened and people got confused. They said if the geeks of the Silicon Valley are wearing shorts, chappals, t shirts, and sitting in the office and making billions of dollars, why should we bother to dress? Now, what ends up happening is that I always tell people that the geeks in the Silicon Valley, they are very smart people. Their brand is synchronized with their product, which means they are tech, cutting edge, tech driven. So if you are so good that you can come up with an idea like Airbnb or Uber or Meta or anything, right? Apple, Tesla, I mean, look at the billionaires who have come out of that region. You're very smart. You can wear what you want. But having said that, they are completely in sync with their innovation as well. So if you see somebody like Steve Jobs, he wore the same cashmere, black cashmere turtleneck, the
Yes.
fitted jeans and handcrafted Italian shoes day in, day out, whether he was launching the iPad or he was sitting in his office. If you see somebody like Mark, he is, when he started Facebook, he dressed casually like a college student. When he did the $50 billion IPO, he very smartly moved to well laundered grey trousers. And when he meets any of the delegates, if you see when he invited Mr. Modi to the headquarters, he was wearing a dark business suit, white button down shirt. So even he knows how to dress to impress and what is appropriate dress.
Yeah. No, great insight. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take a clip of this discussion and I'll keep it handy in case somebody is arguing with me on the dressing sense. I'll just send it across and say, boss, listen to this. I think this is
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. So when people
Awesome.
tell me, oh, look at Mark Zuckerberg, he dresses so casually, I said, no, please see. When he invited Prime Minister Modi to the headquarters, see how well he's dressed. He knows exactly how to dress to meet a head of the state.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Coming to your book, Shital, I just wanted to ask you what inspired you to author this book? I mean, you have been doing this for so many years now, but what was the inspiration behind putting so much of hard work in a book?
This is my second book. My first one was also a bestseller. I firmly believe that as a coach, as a trainer, or if you have something to share that can reach a wider audience, you should definitely write a book. Because what ends up happening with the book is that it reaches so many more people. Like if you look at my coaching, I can only work with X number of people in my lifetime, right? But a book can reach people across the world. And the interesting thing is that people from different parts of the world have written to me and said, I really enjoyed your book. I implemented something. These were the three changes that I made. So I think a book is like a movie. It can reach a much wider audience. And that was the reason that I wrote the book. And yeah, I'm happy. I'm lucky. It did well. And it's reached many more people.
Absolutely. It is, in fact, it's impacting our community as well, which is, I think, all good signs. I have just shared the link of the book in the chat window. In case anybody wants to order, please don't feel shy. Go ahead and do it. It's a
Thank you.
bestseller, and
Yes.
I think,
And
I
do
think,
write back to me on LinkedIn and tell me whether you enjoyed the book. Happy to receive some honest feedback from the readers.
sure. And thanks for inspiring me. I have not written one. Maybe 26 end, something will come out now that I feel inspired.
All the best. Happy to support you.
Thank you so much. Coming to a little bit of transformation conversation also, because as you said, you coach so many people, and executive presence is a core topic that you deal with. Any case study or specific client you remember what transformation they went through, what changes they did make after your coaching or discussions around these points? Any example you can share with us?
I hear it all the time. People write emails, they send messages, they send WhatsApp messages, where they feel that even something small, like I once told a leader, I said, you have so many wonderful ideas, but you speak too much. You overpower the conversation. If you speak less and listen more, you will actually be in a better position. It took a while to convince him. He was not, because he said, leadership is about being seen, about being heard. And my bosses, now as I said earlier, trends change, style change. It was a little bit of a mindset shift. I had to convince him. We went back and forth. But finally, he said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I said, okay, keep a simple formula. You have 2 years and 1 month. If you speak one third and listen two thirds, get back to me in a few months with your feedback. And yeah, sure, he wrote back. He said, I always remember this formula, your one third, two third formula. I implemented it. And he said, yeah, by speaking less, I was much more in control. Secondly, by speaking less, I was listening more. And what was more important was that I was able to read the room. That energy which I was spending on speaking was now had shifted to looking at people, observing people, reading the room, seeing the body language signals of the people, seeing power play that is happening. So many more things that he missed out because of the fact that he was over speaking. So, yeah, I mean, it's something so little like one sentence, speak less, but the effect can be compounded.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be very honest, I'm loving this conversation more because you are bringing more and more structure, right? I think structure gives a lot of clarity and helps people to remember things. So one third, two third. That's a that's a very good formula to remember. I don't think
Yeah.
I am ever going to forget it anymore. I hope everybody else is also getting all these concepts. I'm sure this will get played in repeated mode also. Okay, in future when we publish the podcast, because this is such an important insight that you are sharing. Other question I had was, when you see people, right, with your experience, perhaps you can very quickly spot what obvious mistakes people are doing, right, especially in leadership role, right? They have their own concept of leadership based on 2 3 leaders they have worked with, right? Yeah. So any one or two things you think people should stop doing immediately if they are doing it, if they are either a leader already or they are getting to that leadership path? Any one or two things that you think it's very easy to spot they should not do it?
Yeah. I think, okay, if I was to list it out, I would say the top two, three, four things that people can do. One is listening more. Listening is a very important skill and something that most of us are not trained to do. We are only trained to speak, but nobody is trained to listen. Secondly, people listen only to speak, not to understand. So if we listen to comprehend, I think that will be very important. So, one, it's important to listen. Second is the body language. Most people are unaware of the signals that their body is sending out. But non-verbal communication is a very powerful tool. What are the body language signals that you are sending out? And build awareness on the body language signals that other people are also sending out in the room. It will save you a lot of heartbreak in personal and professional life. The third thing I want to say is understand your own triggers. Building self awareness is important. Triggers can be internal and triggers can be external. Internal triggers are deeply embedded in your personality and could be related to your growing up upbringing, could be related to your childhood experiences, could be related to some difficulty that you faced in your personal life very young or early on. External triggers are environmental. Noise bothers me, heat bothers me, people talking in the office bother me, and I get really upset, whatever it may be. Now, understanding your triggers is very important because many times that is what leads to people completely losing their cool. And EQ, maturity, and many things get compromised. But I think it's important to maintain calm. And finally, I would say respect. This is something which has cropped up in the last decade and more so after COVID. Respect for the individual, respect for the environment, respect for each other, for the clients, for the vendors, for your business partners. So the new word which has crept in, and I'm very happy it has, is respect. So I think respecting people is important in today's
Okay, great. I think these are great pointers, Sheetal. And if people can implement that, in fact, your point around body language that resonates so strongly, I typically tell my clients also, this is the window to all your emotions, right?
world. Yeah.
So knowing how when you are talking to somebody, when you frown, that conveys a lot more thing. When you have a poker face, it may convey nothing at all, maybe, and that may be good for you sometimes.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
need to balance that out, right? How do we do that? But these are some great pointers. Thanks a lot. Another thing that most corporate professionals face on a day-to-day basis is meetings, right? Some proudly say, "Hey, I am doing 7 to 8 meetings back to back throughout the day. I am super busy doing great things." Some people do once or twice. Some people do on call. So, question is, how do you how do people maintain the right kind of presence within meeting? What are one or two things you will advise that they should do when in a meeting environment?
First of all, direct eye contact. It's very interesting, but the human body is very unique. When you look at something or somebody, you automatically start building focus. So, direct eye contact says, I'm interested, I'm invested, I'm engaged. That itself brings focus. And it's the best compliment that you can pay somebody is to look at them and to listen to them. So, that's very important in a meeting. Secondly, humans can multitask is the biggest myth and the biggest gimmick that was sold. I don't think anybody can multitask. They should focus on one agenda at a time. So if you're sitting with somebody across the table, give them your 100% attention. If you keep scrolling on the phone, look distracted, look over their shoulder, start thinking of your vacation halfway through the conversation, all of it shows in terms of engagement. So I think doing one task at one time and giving it your 100% is very important.
I think even that displays respect towards the other person, right? When you are making the right contact, eye contact, and then paying attention as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
And people may not tell you, Rahul, but they can sense it
yes,
that this
yes,
person is not 100% here with me.
yes, absolutely. Uh, I think people who are listening to you today, they will have better meetings from tomorrow, not tomorrow, Monday onwards, right? Because
Monday.
I think one great thing about our community is our community focuses a lot on execution and implementation. So I'm very sure this advice is going to translate very soon into action also. Very, very confident of that. Other thing I wanted to know from you is what is the importance of getting or seeking regular feedback? Because I have seen leaders, also putting a wall sometime, thinking that they are doing all the things, everything is going great. They're seeing the success in terms of bonuses that they're making. So that kind of feeds into that, that positive feeling that everything is going great. Why should I even seek feedback? What do you think about feedback?
I think it's, first of all, it's very important. It's very lonely at the top. The problem is that corporate pyramids are very sharp and nobody tells you the real picture after a certain point. So, unless you make a huge effort as a leader to speak to the person who's the lowest in the pyramid, The information that reaches you is super filtered. So, as a leader, it's important for you to actually speak to people who are way low down in the chain to understand what are their challenges, what's really happening in the organization. So, that of course is very important. Secondly, of course, I feel that having a little more open attitude is also important. Give people the comfort that they can walk up to you, they can talk to you. Thirdly, feedback we only take from people we trust.
Mm.
So build that trust. If you don't trust me and I walk up to you and I say, Rahul, you can do this differently, or I think you are not doing a good job, you'll say, oh, yeah, very smart of her, how cheeky, right? But if you and I have built a relationship of trust and you feel that I'm a well wisher, and then feedback has to be given one on one, in confidence, separately. Where I speak to you and I say over a cup of coffee that Rahul, you're doing a great job. But if you do this a little more, I think you'll see a huge benefit. You will trust me and you will understand my intention and you'll implement it. Randomly to give feedback to people or to give it all the time erodes trust.
Sure, sure. So feedback is important and take it
Very.
from the right set of people and then use the feedback to improve yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I think great advice again. Uh, let's get a little futuristic if we can, right? I want to understand from you if we think about the next 5 year, what will define strong leaders? As you said, trends are changing, generations is changing. So many changes happening. How would leadership look like 5 years from now? What do you think?
I think leaders will have to learn to be more flexible because we don't know what workplaces will look like 5 years from now. You may be in a gig economy where there are really no employees, everybody is giving a few hours of their time. You may also realize that work from home, remote may become the norm, or a hybrid version which already exists may continue. You can also have AI replacing jobs, so you possibly could be speaking to a lot of machines at all times and assuming they are human. So I don't know what the workplace would look like, but whether it's leader or it's anybody, I think we have to be a lot more flexible. Like, let me give you an example of COVID. Before COVID, none of us knew how to get onto a screen and interact with each other. Post COVID, once COVID happened, 3 months, all of us struggled, right? Whether you were 8 years old or 80 years old, you had no choice if you wanted another person to interact with you but to get onto a screen. And everybody learned how to start a video, switch off a video, type into a chat box. Now, the next 5 years, again, would I would say are going to be game changers. So we have to have a mindset of learning, unlearning, and relearning some new skills. So, can't predict, but one thing is for sure flexibility is needed and adaptability.
Yeah, I agree with you. I often use this word agility when it comes to the future part,
Yeah, yeah, that's
which
the word.
closely aligns with what you are saying. So I'm glad that our thoughts are kind of pretty well
Yeah.
aligned when it comes to leadership. So that's great. Uh, See, we are 30 minutes into the conversation, and it looks like time is flying. So which means we are having a good conversation first of all. But let me get to the my favorite part, which is a rapid fire round, Sheetal. I'm going to ask you 10 questions. Don't overthink.
Oh, wow. 10 questions. That's a lot.
Yes,
I'm
but
already stressed.
these are very short questions. Short answer, whatever comes on top of your mind, feel free, right?
Okay, okay,
Uh,
yes.
okay, let me get ahead with this. If your life were a Netflix series, what would it be titled?
Mm. A life lived well with impact. My purpose in life is to impact people, whether it is through my NGO or it is through my work.
Impact. Awesome. Okay. Finish this sentence. If I weren't in the current role, I'd be what? If you are not a leadership coach and a executive presence expert, what would you be?
I would have been a chef.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe you should invite me over dinner sometime then.
I'm not so good. Don't worry. I would have learned to polish that skill.
Okay. Okay. You saved your day now. So let me go ahead. A life mantra. you would tattoo on your forearm if you had to?
Mm, I love to go for walks. So if I had to tattoo on my arm, I would say, well, now the new mantra is 10,000 steps. I don't know whether they are good or bad. But I do believe that a 30-minute walk helps you clear your mind and is good for your mind and body. So I'm a big believer in a 30-minute walk.
Awesome. I think everybody listening again, part of action group that I was talking about. So we do this. So I'm so glad that it's coming from you and people are getting that validation that they have to invest time. All right. Moving to the next one. One word that defines your leadership style.
Mm, helpful.
Helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. What's a belief you have unlearned recently? You talked about learning, unlearning. Have you unlearned something recently?
One thing that I've unlearned is that one thing that coaching has helped me unlearn is that you can't be judgmental. You have to believe that there's magic in everyone and everybody's journey is different. So, yes, it has helped me uh, layer by layer get rid of being judgmental.
Judgmental. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Uh, what's your biggest strength that's often misunderstood?
Um, Staying the course. I am very consistent and persistent. But maybe I don't come across like that. But so when I meet people, they say, oh, more than 2 decades, you're still doing the same thing. And I say, yeah, I love what I'm doing. So why would I not do it? Right. So clearly, people didn't, maybe I don't project that, but I am very consistent and persistent.
Consistent and persistent.
Yeah.
Wow. Good one. Good one. Absolutely. Uh, you said you are not a great cook, but what is one dish you would love to cook for your friends? And I can be the one, by the way.
Okay, let me be honest. Right now, I'm not a great chef. I would have definitely loved to be a great chef. But one dish that I can cook for you is biryani.
Biryani. Okay. Not bad. It's a complex dish,
It's
by the
my
way.
personal favorite.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, what do you wish more leaders talked openly about?
I wish they spoke more openly about their challenges, their vulnerability, the problems that they have faced, instead of glossing it over and making it look so easy.
Okay. Yeah,
Being
fair
more
point.
open and showing and accepting failure. That's one thing I feel that they should speak more openly about the failures as well.
Yes.
That way people start believing that it's perfectly human to fail, regardless of which geography, culture, age group you are in. And failure is something that happens to everybody. So we should speak more of openly about that instead of only celebrating wins.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great advice. Uh, Second last question. If you could give your younger self one sentence of advice, what would it be and why?
Good things and bad things happen. They're all phases, and they don't fret too much about the tough phases. And this too shall pass.
Yes. Okay, great. That's a lot of hope. And the last question is, since we are living in the age of AI, the question is, if AI could solve just one human problem, what should it be?
If one human problem, I would say mm, loneliness.
They provide you companionship.
Yeah, or connect you with people who are like minded. Because I feel that in today's world, the biggest human challenge is that we are too dependent on machines and interact too little with people. And I
Yes.
think that is the root cause of a lot of health issues and depression and mental health issues. So if AI could actually very quickly correct you with another human being who is happy to chat with you, connect with you, support you, and you support them, I think it should be actually linking people instead of only focusing on machines.
No, that's a great thought. I think I'm sure somebody's working on an app like that already.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my idea. If any of the people in this room have worked on it, it's proprietary and you'll have to give me some equity.
Royalty.
Yeah, in
Wow.
your
Why not?
business.
Why not?
Yeah.
Great. This was a very insightful, I'll say, rapid fire round. Seldom I get this kind of measured responses, which was anyways expected out of you. One last question before we wrap up this section is, if you have to, if you have to advise this room with two, three things that they can go on Monday and start implementing to increase their visibility or presence, very simple things that they can start doing. What are those two, three things you will advise them on?
One is small talk. Walk up to people and open conversations. Most people are very, once they work in an organization or they get into what we call as a comfort zone, they never step outside the comfort zone. They have the same four water cooler friends in the workplace with whom they go for the lunch break, their coffee break, even to the washroom, and in an office party, they only hang around with the same four people. So I would say widen your circle, learn small talk, go up and start talking to people. Secondly, again, I'm going to say the same thing, listening, listen more. Thirdly, have a little more open body language. You know, so if you, one simple trick that I tell people is smile a little more. Smile is a universal language. Smile is a stress buster. It's an icebreaker. And you know something? Everybody looks good when they smile. Have you ever met a person where you told them, listen, don't smile, it doesn't look good on you? 3-month-old babies look very cute with a gummy smile. And 85-year-old grandparents look equally cute with the same gummy smile and everyone in between. So smile a little more. It helps build bridges, conversations, relationships.
Excellent, excellent. That was pretty deep, and I am already smiling more, but I'll try a little more harder now. So, and this is a great advice because, as you said, right, it opens that connection with other people also. When they see you smile, they find you
Yeah.
more agreeable and they find you more approachable as well. So that opens.
Also, you know, today people are so stressed. If you look at the face of anybody in an elevator, in an office work, in a workplace, in a coffee shop, everybody looks so stressed, so distracted, lost. I feel the minute you make eye contact with them and smile at them, it automatically acts as a huge stress buster and a conversation opener. So I would say try it and write back to me.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Shital. I think I really enjoyed this conversation because it showed a lot of mirror to many of us, right? In terms of what we may be doing right, what we need to improve upon, right? This was very insightful conversation. Thanks a lot for bringing clarity and honesty to this topic. And you also made this topic very concrete because executive presence is not very well understood, although everybody talks about building executive presence. So
Yeah,
you gave
that's
us the
true.
yeah, and you gave us the poise formula. You gave up the one third, two third thing, and so many small things that people can go and implement. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Unscripted. If today's episode has sparked something in you, don't forget to leave your thoughts or comments. And don't forget to subscribe us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or just follow me on LinkedIn. If you are curious to know about our community Transform Ahead Leadership Circle, feel free to visit our website transformahead.com. As always, stay curious, stay grounded, and lead with clarity, confidence, and commitment. Until next time.